So now let's get going. Uh, when you look at role of government, or whenever we were trying to work with governmental issues that have happened, some things that you spoke about, some things that we did in the last class, I have put this for you, and we were looking at all the organizations in tourism that are there in India. And some of these organizations, particularly TFCI, IITTM, ITDC, these at least, you will be taking in greater detail in Unit 3 and in Unit 4. The Department of Tourism and the policies regarding the Department of Tourism, these two, of course, is something you can try and work towards. Now, I have a little YouTube for you, which I think you can view at your time. If I'll see if it opens here, others will take it later, or I'll just go ahead with the next one. Yeah. Now we enter into a very important section which talks about the service providers in this tourism sector. So we have to look at the travel agents. We have to look at the other tourism organizations here. Yeah, so now for our study purposes, you saw the list of the organizations that impact tourism in our country. All these organizations will feature for you in every unit that we take up in greater detail towards the end. If you look at that particular presentation as it was done by that AI, it's a little too much of information in that little 10-minute break that they have created it into. For us, as let's say the tourism students, there have to be some things out of which will help us out. So for us right now, in this particular unit, only these few ones that I'm talking about in greater detail, you need to get into maybe study in a little more detail. The rest of them will come to us eventually in Unit 3 and Unit 4, and at every stage, we have to take the TFCI in great detail, we have to take the other organizations also in great detail. When we talk about these organizations, on all of them that follow after this, a few things are very clear and we need to remember this. And that is that these organizations have been set up with a specific agenda in mind. Now, when you see policy making, the government cannot all the time understand the problems of every sector. Now, government is sitting at one nodal point and the government wants to make a policy, but government may not have the facts and the figures to decide what should be done, how much should be done, how much more can be done, etc. So, the government allows several such organizations to mushroom or grow up or get formed or created, which will result in them streamlining those departments, streamlining those stakeholders. That is the most important thing. If you are able to streamline them, if you're able to hear them out, if you're able to work for them, then automatically that whole sector can benefit, and in turn the country can benefit. If they are not able to reach out to everybody, then in that case some of the policies may be derogatory, some of the policies may have problems for the people who are executing it, and they'll never understand that particular issue. That is why key areas, for example, tour operation, for example, travel agents, for example, Hotel Association of India, for example, the finance part in tourism, for example, the promotions that happen from the convention IPC, the entire things that are looked after by the government, they become a little more streamlined. And therefore, when you're looking at tour operators, can anyone tell me who are the tour operators? You had this last time also a little bit. Who are the tour operators? Are they any different from a travel agent, or they are the one and the same thing? Yes, Rishi, tell me. I have not muted people today.
Mom, tour
And
operator is the one who basically, organizes the tour, the details, the itinerary, where one's supposed to be at what time. Maybe
very
all
good,
this
Rishi.
planning is done by tour operator.
So, Rishi, how will I distinguish between a tour operator and a travel agent? Because that will be my next one, which we will look into.
Mom, travel agent, he sets up your bookings like maybe your tickets and everything,
Hmm.
and the mode of travel according to what you want to be.
Hmm.
The tour operator, he decides the places or your schedule or the whole itinerary of your trip, but not your maybe like tickets and all, like a travel agent.
Okay, thank you, Rishi. That was good. There are two more hands, so if you can come in directly. I'm not. I've left it open for you. Unmute yourselves and speak.
Hello, ma'am. Good
Tell me.
morning.
Tell me.
Ma'am, I feel the distinguish between tour operators and travel agents are the people who work in the office, and tour operators are the one who go with the people. Like, suppose if I have a tour in Dubai, okay, so my travel agent will assign me a tour operator who will help me, who will take me to places, who will make me visit places. I could
No,
be
you are
wrong, but I'm
correct. There is that. That's also a correct way to look at it. Very clearly, what she's trying to tell you is that somebody is making the plan. That's the travel agent. Somebody is reaching out to people to talk to them and say, "This is my this is my itinerary. This is the program which I am launching." Somebody has to thereafter execute that particular plan. So you're absolutely correct. So once you have a travel agent or a travel agency which has created a program, plan, product, that is then passed down to the tour operators who are in maybe an alliance with that particular travel agency. And very often, there are a lot of these travel tour operators who are fixed or linked to these travel agencies. They will execute it into the field. So you may actually have an operator. Today, there are a lot of indigenous operators also who come forward, take the assignment, and take the people or take the SITs, take the group travels into the areas wherever people are willing to travel. Also, at this juncture, one must realize that I'm sure last time when you were doing travel agency, you would have figured this out. Travel agents are actually of different categories. Some travel agents are of a very big scale, some are the secondary ones, and some other tertiary or small scale ones. So we are here looking at these tour operators. Thank you for your responses. So now let's see what happens in this particular segment. I say it's the apex body, and I think you can keep this as a standard line. Most of these organizations that we are going to look into. Yes, Melanie, you'd like to say something? Unmute and say, I'll stop at that moment. So the apex body, so you can put this a nodal apex. All these words clearly mean that this is the most. Yes, Melanie, anything?
ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, much. So all these are the apex bodies. So keep this word in mind. Apex means they are at the top. And once they're at the top, they have different kinds of other people working under them. So their job then becomes again use two or three more words which you can standardly fit into the others. If a person is at these organizations have an apex role, that means they're on the top. If you're on the top, you have to coordinate, you have to promote, you have to aid. These are some key terms which you fit in into most of these places. Okay, so that's your apex body of the tourism industry. I'm not sure that the numbers are going to be the fixed ones. Every year's numbers have been changing. Once you become a tour operator, or later on, once we see even the travel agencies, the travel agents, and the tour operators need to register, and that registration is complete, the numbers get added into these. They say that it covers all segments of the tourism industry. Yes, of course, because if you have somebody who's going out to the field, who is taking care of the food, the lodging, the travel, someone falls sick, all of that, then automatically that particular operator needs to be in touch with the different segments of the tourism industry. And that is the reason very often they take local players, or they take people who have a connection to that area. For example, I'm planning something, let us say, for interior of Assam, or maybe an Assam, or maybe I'm taking Northeast trip. Then a person in Mumbai can plan, but the actual ground reality may be known by a person who has an experience of Northeast. So then you hire or take the help of a tour operator who is familiar with the Northeastern terrain, because at that juncture, that person can be of more help than the others. I don't know whether I've told you this, that once, in at least in my experience, I was teaching in Pune's Ferguson College for a different subject altogether, and I was talking about Ladakh. Have you all heard about Ladakh? Have you heard how beautiful it is, or some of you may have visited Ladakh? So I was talking about Ladakh, and then somehow the discussion went into Mansarovar Lake. And Mansarovar Lake, if you know, is very auspicious to three religions in this world, because there is Mount Kailash there, and Mount Kailash is supposed to be in the past, in the old Hindu or the Aryan culture, it was believed to be the place where the gods lived. So it was supposed to be the place from where the actual origins of Aryan civilization is to have originated. People call it by the name Meru, Meru, and we have used this for archaeological studies as well. So Meru means a mountain. So this particular mountain was so auspicious for the Hindus that people have various theories and kind of stories about it. Some believe Lord Shiva also lives in those areas. Apart from us, you also have the Jains, for whom it is very, very important, and you also have the Buddhists, for whom it is very important. In fact, in Tibetan area, there's another allied religion, and in that religion also they consider that their first the person who started their religion, they have originated from this particular area. Now, when you look at this region, if you see the Mount Meru region, people go there. And from India, if you're taking a trip to Mansarovar, I know I'm deviating, but I just thought I'll make it a little more contemporary for you. So, when you go to Mansarovar from India, some of you should. You all are young right now, and you must go. I cannot go, even though I would love to go. So you have to go into a bilateral agreement is there between us and China. Please don't stay back in China. But then once you go there, from here, the Indian military takes you to the border in India. From there, the Chinese military take you there. You finish the yatra, then they come back and drop you at the Indian point, and then again the military brings you back. Everybody cannot go. There is this very stringent medical policy that has to go. You have to be cleared that you can take that particular altitude, because as you start going to a certain altitude, there is what is called rarefication of air. That means the oxygen level tends to fall. Humans can adjust, but it takes time for humans to adjust. So the body should be young enough to be able to adjust, and you should not have any major illnesses to go there. So that is the reason the strict systems are there. So I was teaching about something, and so I was giving example of Mansarovar, and then this one little girl, she stands up, not little. This was, I think, evening class, and we used to have all kinds of students in that. So one was a little senior girl, I would say, and she said that, yes, ma'am, I'm familiar with Mansarovar. I said, wow, then you should tell us about Mansarovar. So then she said, no, I don't have very good memories about Mansarovar. It's because I lost my husband in Mansarovar. And so then she started recounting that story. And when she told me the story, I realized that in such circumstances, when you see a death in the hills, you see a death in those areas. She said that the person or because when you go in these kind of surroundings, it's generally the military supporting you. There is no tour operator or something. But if you give it a thought, and there is a death, when there is an emergency, when you get trapped in the Himalayas because of a landslide, at that stage, an outsider will not be of much help. You have to integrate with the local community. So very often these tour operators are that link that you have, where they can actually take you to those places. They know the people, and they are able to help you out. So I think in this case also the military reached out to the local communities, and they could bring or send this girl and the husband the body back. So Just like this story, this is just a little story to tell you how important the true tour or travel agents can be. I'll give you something more if you for you to understand. I'm sure some of you will remember we had a blast here, a serial blast of the trains at here. Now I don't recall. Anyone recalls the year? Then please put it out or tell me. So we had that serial blast where we had 6:10 to 6:20. A number of trains were blown up. Even before you had the police come in, actually, people from Dharavi, people from all the slums around came in and helped to relocate those blast victims and take them to the hospital. So always, local community is your big go. In fact, if you are going to Mount Everest for that matter for a trek, you have to take the Sherpas. If you don't take the Sherpas, you'll not even know, because when the blizzard happens, the routes get covered in snow. So you have to use these communities for your support. And therefore, tour operators with a familiarity of a local area can be a great asset to you when you're planning. So in future also, suppose you're leading a travel agency, please choose specific tour operators who are quite familiar with that region, can reach out to those regions. This will not happen to you if you're looking at an international destination, because in those areas, maybe the things or availability infrastructure is going to be far better than what you see in India. So that's why this becomes a little important for you. And connectivity happens through these agencies. If I'm a member of something, I know more people. Simple example, suppose in college, if one of you is a member of a particular club, you are in touch with 5, 6 people. You need some help, you can reach out to 5, 6 more people. And that's how your connectivity tends to increase. So coming back to it, to this discussion on IATO, it has international acceptance. When we say international acceptance means any travel operator or a tour operator, let's call it the tour operator, the TO can actually move to any international destination and say, I'm a member of this, and say, okay, fine. For a member means you have certain regulatory things sorted, your paperwork is sorted. Okay, what help do you need? It can reach out to another organization there. That organization can tie up with this particular TO and it can work for them. It has close connections and constant interaction with other tourism associations. And the countries are mentioned here, but when you look at US, yes, because US is a bilaterally, we have some deals and connections with them. With Nepal, we have an issue, we have our bilateral relations have been very good in the past. I think currently there have been some recurrings that have been going on with they wanting more territory. The issues with Nepal. Does anyone or is anyone familiar? Where is Nepal located in India from India's perspective? Can you give me a direction? North, south, east, west? All gone to sleep. Where is Nepal located, guys? Come on. Should I start the chat box? No. Where's Nepal located, guys? Okay, you don't want to talk. You can put
Northern part, ma'am, like mostly northeastern part, I guess.
northern part. Very good. Northeast. Aniket says northeast. Um, any one of you are familiar with Bihar, right? Better to talk because I like to hear you all as well. So Bihar, if you're familiar with top of Bihar or the northern part of Bihar, you will find Nepal. Can you give me one landmark thing in Nepal because of which Nepal is very famous in the world? General knowledge question. Thank you, Oscar. North. Kathmandu. What is so special, Sneha, about Kathmandu? What is it that Nepal has? My question is, what is it that Nepal has that makes Nepal so famous in the world?
Mount Everest.
Fantastic. Who was this?
Raj.
Raj, thank you. Where were you for so many days?
I attend all the lectures.
Really?
Yeah.
So thank you, Raj. Mount Everest. And Nepal is also, I think, one of the few Hindu nations in the world. A lot of people go there for um, Pashupati Nath is one of the very important temples that are there. Okay, so coming back to Nepal, Indonesia, I'm sure we are also familiar with. There is a NATO. NATO is another organization we have. We'll do that organization also in the end. So all of these organizations we have been working with. There are 64 body members which we are looking into. How many memberships, types of memberships does IATO have? There are 5 categories: active, allied, associate, international, and honorary. I'll be giving you a note in which the details of these will be given. You'll have to prepare these only for those 7.5 mark questions. So not in great detail, you just need to know how many categories that will be there. What is it, or who are really closely associated with IATO? You have the governments of all countries, wherever we are going as well, but then technically India is what we're looking at, because this is an Indian organization. So government of India, of course, because the ministry has to support it. If you go to the department's site, you will see right at the bottom, they have a full series of service providers that are there. And in that, you will see a mention of IATO as well. So governments, the departments, all the departments under the government, Chamber of Commerce. Why in Chamber of Commerce? Because all the tax, all the filing of all economic work, any other transactions required, industrial support that is needed comes in from there. And of course, diplomatic missions. When we say diplomatic missions, that means supposedly IATO has good relationships with other countries to our organizations, then in that case, it will help them to send people from here to there. Any problems can be thrashed out, all those other concerns that we have. IATO's affairs are managed by the exec committee, which is selected by the active members every 2 years. Who is there at the executive committee? It is headed by a president, and that's very important. The president is an elected person. The president will have his own team of office bearers, which is going to be 6 of them, and there will be 9 executive meetings. Any decision that needs to be taken will have to be passed or cleared at this level. This particular committee should meet every month to discuss the current tourism industry and membership issues. What bhasha is that? Okay. IATO has 13 action committees, and so all these action committees I'm putting down for you, and I think we are pretty familiar with the first one, and that's called Adventure Tourism and Development Committee. When we talk about adventure tourism, if you see the latest tourism policy from 2002, which was the previous policy, from there to even today's policy, a lot of emphasis is being put into adventure tourism. And to develop adventure tourism, one of the components will also be the IATO. Because when you're looking at IATO, it is going to be ensuring that more people can be taken for these ventures. So supposedly you have whitewater rafting. So if you are IATO is in
हेलो नाश्ता किया गुजराती नहीं करो भाई बोटा भाई શું બોલું મારું હાલત ખરાબ થઈ ગઈ આટલી સવારના લેક્ચર રાખી દે શું થયું શું બોલું મેં તો લેટ કર લેક્ચર લેતા
about admissions. You saw that there were some issues that you were facing. Some of you could write into the emails that were given, so that's a way to address the grievance. We also tried to have a one-to-one meeting so that if you had an issue, you could talk to the people who can try and help you out. We also tried a CR mode where you can move in with your CR and talk to the CR, and the CR guides you. So these are grievance redressals that we opted for. A grievance is a problem that you can face. And trust me, whenever you do tour operation, that will be a very big problem that you will face. And many a time, there are tour operators who may take money in advance and the trip may have got cancelled. People may want the money back and the tour operator may not be in a position to pay. So the tour operator does not pay. So it becomes a grievance issue. So these kind of issues then escalate and go to a much higher level, and then it speaks badly of an entire organization. So grievances need to be looked into. Guides coordination committee. Who are guides? Guides are people who know about a place and take you around in a place. Many of you, if you have done school trips or if you've been with even with your family, you must have visited places like Jantar Mantar. You must have visited places like Lal Kila, and in these places you will see there are people who are moving around. You can pay some money. These are the paid or licensed guides by these heritage sites. They take you around telling you the story of here this happened, here that happened, this is the significance of this, etc. Many people don't take that. You can, of course, go through that information in your books or your notes that you may have created. But if you take their help, generally what tends to happen is that they have very nice stories. They'll tell you that the king was here and the queen was here and this happened and a murder happened and this happened. So immediately, how exciting that can become. Just think about the current murder situation, which has excited, I think, the social media so much. So the guides have stories which are very interesting, and those stories can make you like a destination. Similarly, you can get fleeced, you can get maybe ripped off your pockets with the kind of money they sometimes charge. So be careful. You should take those licensed guides which are there, and they generally have an identity card. With that, you can pay for them. Sometimes in some places, you can actually pay at the counter where your tickets are, and you can get them as well. So that's your guides coordination committee. A host committee is anywhere, supposedly there are programs they are organizing. There is a congress we will talk about later. And that's the time this committee becomes very important. Also, there are meetings, there are organizations, there are whatever way they are meeting up with internally or externally with outside partners, stakeholders. At every level, these hosts will have to be, a host committee will become active. Hotel Relation Development Committee. To think logically, why do you think you will need this hotel regulation committee? Is because the tour operator takes you to those hotels because they have been given a list, or maybe they have been connected to by the travel agent and told that you find a good hotel in X destination so that we can put up 20 people there, 40 people there. If it's a group travel, if it's an individual luxury travel, then it's a lot more simpler because getting one or two rooms is much easier than getting a bulk booking or a bigger number. And bulk booking also needs somebody which you can bargain and negotiate so you can get it at a cheaper price. IATO News Committee, they release their newsletters which you can find on their website. I saw some of them. The last or the latest one is regarding COVID situation. Privilege Card Development Committee. So I think this is not something I need to explain. Most of you would be seeing that in banks they're giving you privilege cards. In Amazon you have your Prime cards. In their different other places they have created a courtier of people who they try to address first. They also give you some benefits. They give you some club points, some give you whatever points so that you can go back the next time. Some people call it loyalty cards, some people call it privilege cards, some people call it whatever, privy cards, whatever. Then comes your I missed, sorry, the Legal Affairs Committee. So the Legal Affairs Committee, of course, is very important because for every little thing in our country, it can go to the courts. So if it is going to the courts, then you should have somebody to redress it for them. Right now, you would be seeing a huge tussle that is going on. I think the Supreme Court has given some verdict on women and ownership rights that they have on parental property. So there is always a need for somebody to represent the IATO, and therefore they may have a legal team which will do all of this or maybe represent them. Again, sometimes they also need to draw up deeds, sometimes they need to draw up MOUs, sometimes they need to get into some venture, and at every point the legal papers need to be assessed. So this is that particular committee, very important for them. Railways Coordination Committee is very clear. I think that is for all railway ticketing. So they commit or they move in with IRTC. So then comes Surface Transportation Development Committee, which is to do with all these fleets that are there, the cabs that are there, the paid services that are there. Very often there are individual services or service providers that are there, all of these, and website development. We have, yeah, something. So TIE is your next important association. I think when you did your travel agency last year, this would have been there in it, set up in 1951. Again, like we started with this when we're talking about the tour operator, agents become a little more maybe wider in finding out the clients, reaching out to the clients. One very strong role of travel agents is to ensure that they are able to get as many people on board. one of the earliest travel agent in this world would be Thomas Cook. You're familiar with that. And of course, his so famous first journey that he undertook. In India, the oldest travel agents were all based in Bombay because in those days this was a very good hub to develop and had proximity to international airports at a very early time. So in India also we've had early travel agents and the history you've done last time. So what is very critical about the travel agents is that the travel agencies run at different scales. Thomas Cook runs on a more corporate and a much more bigger scale. A Kesari Travel works at a bigger scale, and at the same time, you could also have a very small scale domestic 3, 4 people getting together to start a travel agency. All of them are welcome. There's only a process to get yourself registered. Once you're registered, you can transact and you can start doing your promotions and selling the product that you have created. When we talk about travel agents, of course, one thing to be remembered is that one of the biggest challenges which travel agents are facing today is coming from the online segment. So whether it is Clear Trip, whether it is Make My Trip, whatever segments you're looking at, or even the buying habits of the people today, there's a big amount of people who are shifting to directly buying products off the net. So travel agents have this challenge to face. They've tried to redo this challenge. They've tried to unwork or maybe make a new changes around that. So all travel agencies now have a digital portal as well, and they want you to get into that portal, and then they aid you in other things too. So thanks to the way the world is growing, and I think post COVID this will be even more a remarkable segment to watch because a lot more will go online. Right now I think one also needs to debate a very interesting change that's happening in travel habits, and that is going to be a virtual tour of most of the places. The government of India itself, if you see the Ministry of Tourism website, has launched a Visit India program in which one is, of course, a physical visit, which is open to even students to come to India and study. But the second one, which is more critical, is what they're looking at trying to take you to various destinations digitally so that you don't feel that you are landlocked, you are locked into your houses, you have nothing to do. So if you'd like to see new places, there are ways in which we are trying to maybe send it across to the homes. And this virtual tour system will become very important. Today, people are going to give it to you for free because it's going to be a brief seconds. After some time, I'm sure there will be a few more experiential aspects added to that. And thereafter, maybe we should see a boom in this sector as well. So if some of you are really good with the computers, start looking at this segment as well. I think it will be a next turnaround for all of us. We've learned to buy tickets online. We've learned to do everything online for that matter. So we will now have to travel online as well. So that's one segment. Look at it, very interesting. And I think one should be prepared for such changes. So what does the TIE do? TIE actually regulates the industry. There are many travel agents, like I said, some are good, some are not able to reach up to the mark. Some are not able to even provide the necessary things that they say, yes, I will be giving you this on the trip, and then they're not able to give that. So there are always these issues that are happening, and that makes it important for the travel agents to ensure that at least they are able to get regularized, they are able to be monitored. They are scared that somebody can pull them up and can actually throw them out of the travel agencies, agents associations. They get a bad reputation. These are some of the things that actually can work. The second thing that I put down for you, it is the largest and the oldest travel and tourism association. 1951, remember, we were just starting with the first 5-year plan, and at that time a travel agency was already agents association was already formed. So very old organization, and even today it's an interesting place to seek some new aspects, new newsletters that are coming in, etc. Next is the primary purpose was to protect the interests of those engaged in the industry. And this is what I told you at the beginning. One role of these organizations. These organizations are not government organizations. These organizations, whether the previous one or the ones we'll do after this, these organizations are actually totally a group which forms together, has similar ideas, and they work as pressure points. In many cases, when a policy comes out, the policy needs to have a go from these people. That means if there is a change in policy, then the change in policy should be ratified by these people. Then in that case, the travel agents are also happy, government is also happy, people are also happy because we get the benefits. One important thing that TIE does is it links itself with the airlines and IATA. So ticketing is very important in travel agencies. You've seen that in the past. So in ticketing, of course, if you're not in sync with IATA, you're not following the IATA norms, you will not be really appreciated. So if you ever open the TIE website, you will see all these organizations are co-supporters. Their logos are attached in their websites. TIE also works closely with the ministry because it has to reach out to them, it has to tell them, hello, these are my problems, please address them. Of course, those have to be done in a certain protocol manner, but whatever way it is. So what happens is that they discuss it at their agency levels or this committee level. They take that petition, they send the petition, they present the petition to the minister. The minister may accept, may not accept, but that is the process or the protocol that is followed. Next, we come to what is it that the TIE is looking into, or what are the different aspects of the things, aspects or things that the TIE should be following or doing. First thing is to look into the issues of airline ticketing. So because ticketing is an aspect of travel agents, it also ensures that it is keeping a track, ensuring that people traveling is easier. So outbound tourism, people going out of our country. So if I have people traveling right now to let's say USA, then yes, outbound travel. So I don't know how many of us would be allowed at this time, but anyway. So outbound tourisms, inbound tourisms. In both the cases, if you go to the TIE website, they also retain databases, how many people have traveled, how many people have not traveled. Now, in the COVID situation, I think we need to make a mention here that there was a lot of people who got stranded. Now, when people got stranded in different countries, and also many of our students have been abroad, many of our workers have been abroad. So, if you are familiar with it, the Indian Airlines has had an entire uh, program with the help of which it has allowed or made sure that every one of those people could come back to India. It took us time. There was a setup or a system in which it was done, or at least it was ensured that people who wanted to come back to India could come back to India. And that is the way we have executed this particular COVID situation. Similarly, a lot of foreigners who were trapped in India and were keen to go back to their respective countries have been ensured that they reach their respective countries. So that is the way we have ensured that we could handle or manage the COVID situation. Next comes domestic tourism. It does promote, it does ensure that plays an important role in domestic tourism. How does it play a role in domestic tourism? Because if the travel agents are not familiar with the domestic tourism sector, what it has, what it does, what are the new destinations, what are the new policies, etc., then it is going to be very difficult for the person to promote that to a client, customer, or a person where you're selling your particular product. Now, you don't want to go to a travel agent who doesn't know the visa policies or maybe even doesn't know the new railway booking policies. So, you have to have somebody who knows this sector, and therefore, that's a very, very important role for them. Because right now, I think 2020 and 21 will be a major boom only on the domestic tourism sector. I don't think so. So much of international travel will happen unless it's an emergency. Looking at hospitality, a lot of people ignore this section thinking that tourism is only tourism. But remember, one of the important components of tourism was always accommodation. And therefore, accommodation is the most important thing that they are also looking at to ensure that the group that they are sending is at least put up somewhere. Now, here there were some times when very big cartels of travel agents, they would do what is called block booking of places, and then they would sublet or subsell it to the smaller agents. That was a long time back process which has been put an end to, but again a system which did function in those days. And the reason was that if you did a bulk booking, so if I know that this particular let's say summer season, I'm going to have 50 people travel to, let's say, Goa. So I approach a particular hotel in Goa and I say I'll need 50 rooms, 50 rooms for my 50 guests. And so I'm booking it in advance from this period to this period. So I pay the money. Of course, when it is 50 rooms, that hotel is going to be very kind to me and can give me a discount. And that's what I want. So I take the discount, I get the benefit, and I keep it with me. And later on, as I start selling those 50 seats to the people, I get the benefit of being the early bird in that. So then comes the MICE sector. You've done MICE last year with Divyang sir. So MICE is a very important sector right now. And the last policy of tourism, which we will do in detail, you'll see that how important the government thinks the MICE sector is. Now, one of the very important things with this COVID situation is that this sector will take some time right now to come back. The reason being, whether meetings will perhaps go on at a one-to-one level, but when you're looking at conventions, when you're looking at exhibitions, when you're looking at all these segments, people will now be a little wary with the new norm that we have and the distance keeping norm that we have. All these distances, or maybe the mask wearing, sanitizations, all these new norms that we have may really make it a little slow for my sector to pick up. But we shall hope that they should recover, because by 2021, they are looking at 60% recovery for the tourism sector, which is, I think, a very good thing. So sports tourism is a boom for India actually. Let's say an IPL. Let's say maybe you have any other those group sports programs. Maybe there's a cricketing match. Maybe there is a what is this auto racing match. At every auto racing that goes on. So at the Buddha lap that is there in Delhi. All of these areas you can actually have a promotion which is there can be promoted by the TIE. Destination promotion and specialization. When I come to destination promotion, technically what can the travel agents do? Travel agents don't promote it in the way the government promotes it. Travel agencies or this entire TIE, what it does is that it has what is called travel marts or a travel congress. Now these congresses or the marts are places, so they choose, let's say, a Kathmandu. Now I'm just giving Kathmandu even though it's not in India. So when they choose Kathmandu, let's say 10,000 people, 10,000 different travel agents that they have, all want to go there, set up their stalls there, speak about their different promotions and programs there. So in the destination, which is a Kathmandu, which could be a Mumbai, which could be any other place for that matter, Baroda. So in any of these destinations, suddenly there is a lot of people who are coming in. There will be a sale of things. There will be accommodations which will be used. So the tariffs, whatever you have decided, will work for you. So there is going to be a lot of occupancy in the hotels. There is going to be a lot of buzz in that city. Things will boom. The economy will boom. So that is how they are promoting, and particularly when they choose a destination, this is how they try to send it or maybe make it very big. In the past also there have been cases where they have been deliberately invited to promote a destination. So then a state government can tell them that please promote, let's say, Chhattisgarh this year. So then they'll all go to Chhattisgarh, find out a place there and develop it in the interior, which will really make it very nice. Then comes Raj, you want to show us something your video is on. So the last thing that I'll do right now, I think I'm going into that one. Yeah, just finished about an hour. So the TIE's one important aspect is the Travel Congress. And the reason for this Congress is that exactly like I said, the travel march, a lot of people coming in. It makes everything very visible. It makes gives an opportunity to for everyone to come on board, and that is what is very very important for the people to know, whether it is promoting a destination, promoting Thai by itself, promoting any agent that they are looking at. They may have an award for the best agent. They may have the best of something which has been organized, maybe a destination chosen by them, which is really good. So all that will ensure that this particular event gets promoted. So I'll stop this class here. Yeah, I can see